Just breathe. Relax. Release any tension, any cares, any concerns, any worries. Just let them all go. And center yourself in that place where mind and heart come together as one with spirit. That place where 1 and 1, 1 plus 1 truly does equal 1. And we know that we are one with that presence and power that lives in, through, and as us. And we ask today that we all share from our hearts when we feel and hear something that allows us to benefit everyone who's in this room and everyone who will see this presentation at a later date. Because spiritual prosperity is the basis for all other prosperity. And so it's so important for us to really absorb this information and take it in and use it. And we are so grateful for all that we learn through these teachings, through our readings, through our practice, through the challenges we face every day. It's all a learning experience that is meant for our highest good. And we are so grateful for this knowing, grateful for this opportunity to be together, and grateful for this life. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And as it says in Mark 11, verse 24, whatever we ask in prayer and believe that we have received it, it is ours. And just as Mildred of Edwene Gaines fame knew that she was going to go on that cruise, when we know without a doubt, that's when the manifestation happens.
Can I say something, Anita? That
Absolutely.
happened to me too, because I was going on a cruise to South America, and the minister at that time said, if you put the money down, believe, it will come. And it came almost at the last minute, but it came like 2 weeks before I went on that cruise.
So
I
cool.
won the money.
Wow.
So cool.
I won the total.
So cool.
Yes. And I got to
Wow.
go for 21 days.
Ooh.
And I was prosperous, and I'm going to be prosperous again.
Oh, you are still prosperous.
Yeah.
You are still prosperous.
I am.
Amen.
Thank you, Melanie. You are too.
Do you know what? And I have the same image book page. It'll be in my book that I bring next week. And won a free cruise. I didn't win it. I went on a free cruise.
I've done a
Gifted
couple
it.
of those.
Yeah, I think what I hear is that it's not just about the knowledge and the thinking, it's about faith.
Mhm.
And so I would love it if we would talk more about faith.
Mhm. Okay, so spiritual prosperity, and this is from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, which is written by our co-founder Charles Fillmore, and he says the difference between spiritual prosperity and material prosperity is that spiritual prosperity is founded on the understanding of the inexhaustible, cannot be exhausted, omnipresent, everywhere present, substance of spirit as the source of supply. The material belief is that the possession of things constitutes prosperity. And that's what we're really working on, is to remember that our source is not our bank accounts or our jobs or Social Security. Our source is that inexhaustible, omnipresent substance of spirit. So today the objectives are we're going to go do a brief review of the first 3 sessions. Then we're going to talk about seeking the sacred, and in Seeking the Sacred, we'll be talking about living a peaceful and fulfilling life, appreciating every day, and being kind. And then we're going to talk about spiritual nourishment, which includes prayer and meditation, time in nature, and finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. And then we're just going to touch on the idea that spirituality in its wholeness enhances our well-being in its wholeness. And then we'll just briefly talk about what will the upcoming final sessions. So, first we talked about what is holism. And I think there's a couple of people in here that love the idea and the vision of being us individually are holy, completely, utterly, without question, holy. And that's because we are connected. Everything that we do, and that's why this series of programs, classes that we're getting together and doing it's all about a holistic approach to prosperity. Because if we have a lot of money, but we're miserable, and our relationships suck, that's not really being wholly prosperous, is it? And we always remember that all of it is within that power and presence of the divine that lives in, through, and as us and all around us. It is all. And the whole, that allness, is of course greater than each of our individualities, each of our individual expressions. We have access to it, but it is everything. And then the levels of our mind that we study, we have to be aware of the fact that our conscious mind is what defines our thoughts and actions, the ones that we are aware of. That's why all change begins with awareness. All evolvement begins with awareness. And our subconscious, which is a much larger area than our conscious, it holds millions and, I don't think there's a number high enough to say what our subconscious holds. It's a storage container, and it has all of our automatic reactions, reflexes. It breathes our lungs and sees through our eyes. That works in our subconscious. And then the superconscious mind is that God mind. That God mind to which we can all connect whenever we want to, whenever we need to. Any minute, any second of any day. We just seek, ask, knock, and we find. The door's open. And I love the connection between quantum physics and metaphysics. And quantum physics tells us that everything in the physical world is made of atoms. But what are those atoms made out of? Those atoms are made out of energy. And that energy is consciousness. So that means that, just like it says in A Course in Miracles, it's not really real. It's only as real as we make it. And then our thoughts are either going to empower us and our lives. Our thoughts create our feelings, and our feelings combined with our thoughts create our reality. And we can either have empowering thoughts or disempowering thoughts. And again, it goes back to choice. We have a choice as humans, unlike our lovely furry friends that we love dearly, that are always happy to see us, even after we come home mad and scowl at them. They don't care. But they're operating on instinct. They also know when somebody doesn't like them too much, don't they? Very interesting.
They also know who feeds them.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
They're very
For
psychic.
sure.
And then, of course, as long as we're in this human form, it's important for us to remember that we need to be physically prosperous. And we do that by taking care of our physical forms. We eat nutritious foods. We exercise. And I really love the fact that Linda pointed out, exercise doesn't have to be drudgery. Do something you enjoy. I mean, I love to dance. And do you know that dancing is an absolutely phenomenal workout?
I do it every day.
There you go.
I dance in the kitchen while I cook. Because it's fun.
It is. It's fun and it's good exercise. And get enough sleep. Studies have said that, those people who go to bed at relatively the same time every night, get a better sleep than people that have an erratic schedule. And pray and meditate daily. It's not just for spiritual. Prayer and meditation helps us physically as well. And practice mindfulness, being in the now moment. One of the books that I used in my references, and I'm not sure that I put it in the references, is Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. If you haven't read that book, it's excellent. And that's basically what the power of now is mindfulness. And participate in social activities. I'm so looking forward to the Sounds of Music concert coming up. And we will be dancing in the aisle. So we'll get all kinds of benefits from that. And volunteering. It feels good, it helps other people, and it helps us too. And then of course we need to find and maintain social support and work together with our healthcare team. And in whatever area it is, we always want to do some self-evaluation. Because until we know ourselves, we cannot do anything about what's going on in the world around us. It's not that we don't have any control over what's going on around us. It's just that we're unaware of how much control we have over ourselves. And when we start taking the time through prayer and meditation to reflect, evaluate, take ownership, and then take action on what we learn from that reflection, evaluation, that's when things really start to take a good turn in our lives. So one of the things we want to contemplate and discern, if you haven't done it, take the time and do it. What are your core beliefs about the divinity, no matter what name you call it? What is your core belief about yourself, about others, about the world around you? Unfortunately, I hear too many people saying the world is going to hell in a handbasket, or
I think
something
we
like
should
that.
do that on a weekly basis.
Yes.
Because I think, weekly it changes.
Well, your core beliefs should be kind of like that Peter faith.
Yeah, the basics, right?
That rock faith.
Bedrock.
That's your core beliefs are your bedrock. And that's how you approach everything. Those core beliefs are what move you in a certain direction. So the other things do change on a regular basis, but those core beliefs, once they're established, like a core belief is God is good all the time.
Right.
Which tells me that when I'm going through a rough patch, I go back to that. Even though what I'm going through sucks, I know that God is good all the time. I know that all things are working together for my highest good. And even though I'm going through something that I would rather not be experiencing, I know that ultimately it's going to be okay. And that makes it easier to move through that. Makes it easier for me to hold on to my patience, which is something I've been working on for a long time. Tell you what, when you ask for patience, you know what? God has this wonderful sense of humor.
Be patient.
Yes, he gives you all these opportunities to practice patience. It's just hilarious. And then, of course, what are our core beliefs about prosperity? Money doesn't grow on trees? That one comes off my tongue way too easy still. So we got to work on that, because our state of consciousness is what determines how we perceive and experience the world. Our perception is the precursor to our experience. And this is, I love this quote. Melanie, can you read this? Our wonderful Eric Butterworth quote.
Prosperity consciousness. Prosperity is not just having things. It is the consciousness that attracts the things. Prosperity is a way of living and thinking, and not just having money or things. Poverty is a way of living and thinking, and not just a lack of money and things, or things.
That is Butterworth, yeah, Eric Butterworth. I mean, and that is so true. And that when we get this, then there is nothing that can stop us. So today we're talking about spiritual prosperity. And I found this from, this is a great book. I'd really love for us to do a class series on this, The Eye of the Storm. And the subtitle is Embracing Conflict, Creating Peace.
So do we
As in-
create more conflict for ourselves so we can practice?
Oh, you don't have to create
Yeah, I
it.
know.
You don't have to create it,
It's
yeah.
out
Oh,
there.
you think we're not?
Yeah, well, yeah. But what it said in this book is that when we don't feel okay about ourselves, when we feel inferior, when deep down inside we feel flawed, what that is telling us is that we're actually spiritually impoverished. And what we're talking about is moving from spiritual impoverishment, or however you would say that, of being spiritually impoverished to being spiritually prosperous. So when you think about being prosperous, doesn't that mean that you have so much you can give it away? Isn't that the idea? I mean, when you think of financial prosperity, don't you think, oh, I could give so and so, I could help so and so with this, I could totally fund the roof on the church. I could do this. I could help pay off the mortgage on the church. I could contribute to a charity that is near and dear to my heart. There's so much I could do if I had more money. But the thing is, when we are spiritually prosperous, the money comes. Because that's what this is all about. And one of the things that we can do to increase our spiritual prosperity is by seeking the sacred. Seek and you will find. And the sacred spiral is something that has been around for as long as history's been recorded. And it's found in nature. It's found in universal patterns of evolution. It signifies growth, continuity, rebirth, and the eternal. And what I found very interesting, this goes back to the Einstein quote about atoms and energy. That picture right there, this picture right here, that's inside of an atom. Inside. And what do you see in that picture? A spiral, right?
And a lot more pieces than we think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the atom is way more empty space, energy space. It's not empty, it's energy. All those spaces in between are energy. And that spiral pattern is the pattern of our lives, really. Because that's what we're here to do. Like Linda often says, in unity we evolve. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to not go around in circles, but to go around in an upward spiral. So that we learn and grow and become all that we are meant to be. So, living a peaceful life, Eckhart Tolle says this. And, Crystal, can you read that?
You find peace not by rearranging the circumstances of your life, but by realizing who you are at the deepest level.
Is that resonating with anyone? Because it's not just saying, I need a new couch, or I need a new mate. It's realizing that who we are at the deepest level is what determines everything that's going on out there. Living a peaceful, fulfilling life, these are some things we can do. First of all, we need to make a decision. And it might be a little different for each one, because we all have a different purpose in this life. So we need to decide, along with those core beliefs, what's really important to us. What is my reason for being here? What is my purpose? And then take a look at the commitments we have made. Because sometimes we make commitments that don't serve our purpose. And so we might want to reduce some of the commitments we make. Simplify our lives. And then we need to give ourselves some time. I get totally wrapped up in working on stuff like this, and it's, for me, it's entertaining and stuff, but I get to the point where my eyes are like, would you please get away from the computer? I mean, it just, it really does take its toll. So I've gotten into the habit of at least once every hour or so, just getting up and going downstairs, maybe if it's decent outside, opening the door and breathing some fresh air, chatting with Mike if he's home, but just stepping away from the chores, the duties, the tasks, even the ones you love. And then slow down and enjoy whatever it is you're doing. And that's something I have to really teach myself, is slow down and enjoy. Who said, slow down, you're moving too fast. You got to make the morning last, just kicking down the cobblestones and feeling groovy. I love that song. I mean, that's what we need to do. Because the secret of living a fulfilled life is not only to do well, but to do good.
Could you go back one?
Sure.
Thank you. My eyes are so down. Okay, thank you. Just the song, just put groovy and we got it. Okay, thank
It
you.
is fun. So, you heard the story of the three bricklayers? First one says, I'm laying bricks. Second one says, I'm building a wall. The third one says, I'm helping to build a cathedral. And that's all about what are the beliefs and attitudes that we take into what we're doing. All right, somebody tell me a story about themselves, about when you were doing something that other people might look at as kind of mundane, boring even, but you just love it. Anybody? Kim?
I find this kind of funny. You know, I do home care, but I also do a lot of cleaning
Uh-huh.
for my home care people. And like, I have to sweep a lot or mop. Well, if I have music on, I kind of like, you know, dance with the
Yeah.
room or whatever.
Yeah.
So I can take something mundane, like doing those kind of chores, into doing something fun with it.
Yes.
But, I don't know, some people might think I look a little, you know, dancing with a broom, you know what I mean?
Well, the picture that
It's
popped
dancing
into
in
my
the
mind
rain
was
kind of
was
thing.
Mickey Mouse in the.
Oh, the Sorcerer's
Fantasia,
Apprentice?
The Sorcerer's
Oh my
Apprentice.
God.
I love that scene. It's just, you know, it's like he's got the broom and the
Or it's
everything.
kind of like, you know, do you remember the one with Dick Van Dyke and,
Mary Poppins.
Mary's
Yeah,
House?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Cleaning the chimney.
Yeah.
Chimney.
Yeah. Yeah, love it.
Yeah. But that's the thing. We can take an everyday thing like sweeping or mopping and make it a chimney moment, or make it a, oh, here I go again. I always have to sweep the floor. You know, my thing recently is we live in a condominium and we have a wonderful crew that takes care of the, you know, snow and the ice and all that stuff, and they use salt, rock salt. And I have little pieces of salt everywhere I look. The other day, I got sick of looking at it. As I said, I am not world's best housekeeper. I'm not the worst, but I'm not the best either. And there were so many little pieces of salt. I just got the broom out and I said, I don't have time to deal with it right now, but I cannot look at it anymore. And I must have swept out a pile
Oh, wow.
that big of little pieces of salt.
And it goes everywhere.
And it
too.
goes everywhere because you get it stuck to your foot and then you track it around. I didn't make it a game though. I really should have.
Chimney.
No, next time it's a chimney moment. So that's the thing though. We can take any experience and make it into whatever we wish. So we want to spend every day appreciating not just the good stuff, but everything that comes our way. And you know what happens if we do that? If we appreciate everything that comes into our life every day, then at the end of the day, we end up feeling deeply grateful for life itself. And isn't that what we really want? I mean, as much as we would like to have more money, more this, more that, it's that sense of my life is good. I have given something to this world, and this world has given back so much to me. And I don't know about you, but the thing that I value probably more than anything is the growth that I've experienced. I mean, it's just, that's really what I live for, is to grow. And it is my humble, honest belief that the day that I leave this earth, I will still be growing. Because we're never too old to become better us.
Do you need water?
Yes, please, thank you. And our spiritual prosperity grows by appreciating every day, that attitude of gratitude. Anybody remember Ferris Bueller? Mm-hmm. This is a quote from Ferris Bueller. Marianne, can you read that?
I'll try. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
One of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah, what's up?
Yes, it's a great movie.
We should have a movie night.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, you suggested it. You open your mouth.
I agree, and this would be a good one to watch. I mean, some of the old flicks are, you know,
Oh, yeah.
there's a
Priceless.
hidden message in there.
Absolutely.
It's not just about some silly little high school kid that decides to play hooky. Thank you so much, Lena. So,
I just watched a movie with Kara last night.
Yeah.
We didn't finish it, and I got to bring it home. It's a newer movie, but it's one that was done before, about a lady who goes to Paris to buy a Christian Dior dress,
mm,
and she saves up her money. She's a house cleaner, so
oh,
it kind of hit home for me.
Inspirational, huh?
Save up to go to Paris.
Yeah,
you know, buy a
she
dress.
did it, you can do it too.
Jackie and I were talking about seed money today. That's kind of like what Mildred did, right?
Right.
Yeah,
That's why it
yeah,
was kind of
yeah.
odd when you were talking.
Yeah, yeah. So we want to appreciate every day, and how do we do that? Again, we go back to practicing mindfulness. Be here now. Anybody keep a gratitude journal or a journal of any kind? You betcha.
I did for a long, long time, and then I stopped.
You
And I
might,
got the-
you know, it might be a practice that you want to get back into.
Absolutely, because when I was doing it, more things were happening. You know, I thanked someone for taking me out for lunch, then something else happened, then something else. I was grateful.
I
Yeah,
even got my grandkids some books, and you can buy them at the dollar store.
Yeah.
And they and there's
right, right. And volunteering. I mean, Unity East has so many wonderful volunteers. I swear, I don't think there's hardly anyone in the congregation who has not volunteered for something. And it is such a blessing to all of us. And of course, spending time with the people we love. I mean, one of the things that I make sure to do is I have certain hours of the day that I spend with my husband. I love him dearly. I'm not going to have him forever. And I'm going to enjoy my time with him. And like I said, I get wrapped up in this stuff. When I do, honestly, hours go by and I don't even realize it. And then, but I have a certain time, I look at the clock and I'm like, oops, I'm late. It's time for me to wrap this up and go spend time with my hubby. I love him. And I make him a priority. And we look for the good. What ye seek, ye shall find. And this is not just looking for. When I first heard this, I was at a different place in my growth. And so, you know, I was looking for the good things that would happen. That was my idea of looking for the good, is looking for the good things that would happen in my life. And then as I grew, as I evolved, I said, you know what? I bet you there's something good even in the bad stuff.
My favorite mantra is a grateful heart no matter what.
Ooh, lovely. Very good. A grateful heart no matter what. Because that's the thing. When we get to the point of saying, it's not just looking for what's already good. It's looking at what is here for me in this less than desirable experience that I can use to help me grow and evolve. Because that's good. So there's something good in all of it. And the most important thing is to love ourselves. You know, that Whitney Houston song from, I don't know what year it was, but learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And that is so true. Because when we're loving ourselves, we're loving that inner divinity as well, are we not? So learning to love ourselves, learning to realize who and what we really are and loving that. That's appreciation and showing that appreciation. So it's all good. All of it. The good, the bad, the ugly. Yes.
And when you love yourself, it's showing, you know, you have to remember that we're all connected. So when you love yourself, you're influencing the whole universe.
That's so true. Thank you, Carolyn.
No.
It is. I mean, when we love ourselves, we're an example for other people to follow. I mean, whether we know it or not, we are being watched. And we don't know who it is that's watching. I mean, how many times have you been in a grocery store and seen a mother and a child and said, oh, she's doing such a good job with that little boy or little girl? Or the opposite. You don't know who's watching you whenever or wherever you are. So our example influence, just like Carolyn said, those ripple effects, those butterfly wings, make all the difference. And there's one answer we can always count on. Always works. Being kind. Because kindness increases our spiritual prosperity. And Linda 4, can you, Linda number 4, can you read the Nelson Mandela quote? Or not? Can you see that up here?
Oh, I believe that in the end, it is kindness and generous accommodation that are the catalyst for real change.
Right. And what did Nelson Mandela accomplish?
The end of apartheid was not that proud.
Yeah.
And he went through prison all that time and still kept spiritual.
Yep. I mean, that's, and for a man who was brutally beaten, thrown in prison, I mean, it was, the conditions under which he lived were horrible, and yet he says that in the end, it's kindness and generous accommodation, that allowing, that are the catalysts for real change, not surface change, but when people change at heart. That's what makes a difference. And Benjamin Franklin, I never thought too much. I mean, Benjamin Franklin to me was the guy that, stood out in the rainstorm with the kite and stuff. I didn't know much about him or think too much about him. But how Benjamin Franklin became wealthy was, he was an inventor.
Right.
And he invented a lot of practical things.
Invented a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. And what he did with those inventions is he gave access to them. He didn't say, well, how can I personally profit from this? He gave access to his inventions to the public. And then what he noticed in the town, in the community where he lived, was there was a connection between his own prosperity and the donation of his products to serve the community. And it increased their well-being and the well-being of the city to the point that he was increased as well. So what we give out doesn't just come back, it spreads like a ripple. And I'm sure that he was an example that other people followed, that maybe took his inventions and made little tweaks or improvements to them, that made them even better, and then shared those improvements. So giving back is a huge way that we can increase our spiritual prosperity. Community service, whether it be to the Unity East community or the greater community at large. I love what Reverend Kelly does with the homeless. I mean, I think most people who are homeless are struggling spiritually. They are probably spiritually impoverished.
Because I worked with her, when I could.
Mhm.
And you get to know them, and it is a joy to get to know them.
They're good people. They're good people that have had something go wrong in their lives, and they don't know what we know. They don't know how powerful their thoughts are. They don't know that they can change their circumstances by changing their lives. And of course, philanthropy, giving financially, and volunteering, giving of our time. So whenever all of those things when we're doing those things, we are not only helping other people, we are helping ourselves. We are growing in our spiritual prosperity. And kindness, ideas, sending someone a letter. Kindness is free, folks. Supporting a friend through a challenge. Practicing self-care. And that's honestly, that's one of my growing edges. I mean, it's like, oh, but I can't do that. I don't have time to go to the gym. I have a presentation I have to give. I have to prepare for this. I was like, okay. So when we get on the cruise and everybody's walking and you're going, you wish you would have gone to the gym, Anita. And Mike and I joined the Older Persons Commission, the OPC in Rochester, which is a great little,
I'm so jealous of that
it's
place.
so cool.
Oh, for $179, you can join.
You can join even if you don't live in the area for $179.
Oh, you
know what it,
can?
you know what it costs residents?
Nothing.
$6 for the year.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's how my group got started, because they did that and charged $179. And people who had been donating their time for years and years and years said, I don't think so.
Yeah,
We'll just start our own group.
right,
And they just pulled me in.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate.
right. But that,
It's just too far to drive every day.
yeah, but it's for me,
But yeah,
it's where I live. And they have a
Walking
walking track, they have bicycles, that pickleball is the big
Cool.
thing. That's, I
That's
want to
a new
learn,
thing,
I want
pickleball.
the time to learn how to play pickleball. It looks like so much fun.
And where is it?
And in Rochester, downtown Rochester, the OPC.
Yeah, that's a new one, because I know my dad, when he was alive, he went to the old one and, they
Yeah.
had pool,
This
they
one
had
has a-
everything.
We have
This
a
one
pool,
has
there's a pool,
But it's
there's,
a walking track.
Yeah.
Mile.
Well, I know if you join the YMCA, and sometimes your insurance will actually cover at the YMCA. Yep.
We
So
used to
I
have
was at the
sneakers.
YMCA for.
Yeah, I
the
joined for
YMCA,
free.
the Y is great.
And they even have children's programs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I joined for
We used to have a wonderful Y
silver sneakers.
that,
Yeah.
my mother-in-law, bless her
Yeah, right.
soul, she's left us last year, but my mother-in-law refused to join OPC. She joined the Y instead because she didn't want to go where the old people went. She was 97.
What does OPC stand for? It's not Old
Older,
Center.
older
I know.
Persons Commission.
Oh, it sure
Yeah,
does,
that's
yeah.
right,
Older
yeah.
people.
That's why we say the letters and not the words.
Right, I got it.
They should change it.
But
I think they were looking to change.
having pride in who you are, that's kindness. Because that's something else that I have struggled with for years, and I'm certainly gotten better, but I don't know if there's anybody else that's ever struggled with their self-worth. You know, I don't deserve that. I'm not good enough for that. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, and those are the, we have to uncover those unconscious beliefs.
But where did they come from? Family?
Well,
Everything.
Programming.
family,
Yeah.
friends, I mean,
Television.
for me, I grew up in what was called Avon Township at the time. And I lived in a subdivision called Brooklyn Sub. And that was where all the poor kids lived.
Oh.
So I was labeled as one of, oh, she's from Brooklyn Sub. So I was, I mean, Rochester and Rochester Hills now is, big deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't back. My dad bought the property that we lived on in 1953. When we moved into our house, we had no indoor plumbing, no indoor bathroom. Our indoor plumbing was a hand pump for the kitchen sink.
My mom had a wringer washer, you remember that?
Yes, we had one of those too.
I had one too.
When we wanted to take a bath, my mom would fill up a big pot with water, cold water, because that's all we had. Warm it up on the stove, put cold water in the tub, and put enough hot water in there to make it warm enough to take a bath. I mean, that's how I grew up.
Wow.
So, I was not, that was, my mentality was, you gotta work hard, and I wanted to get out of that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, young people that could, use a history lesson.
I'm so grateful for the fun things I had growing up. It wasn't necessarily money.
Right.
But I look at the kids today and I think, oh my God, you missed out. We played kick the can till the lights went on. I mean, we had so much freedom.
Right.
And it didn't cost anything.
To this central thought right now of kindness. Because kindness doesn't cost anything. We can be kind to the children. We can be kind, even the ones that are little brats. And they are. I mean, I was talking to Marina this morning, and she's been a school teacher, a music teacher in elementary schools for 38 years. I mean, I graduated from Central, well, I didn't graduate from Central, I graduated from Oakland, but I was a school teacher, and it was a lot different actually being a school teacher than being a student.
Oh yeah.
Because as a student, I loved school. And there were kids in the class that were disruptive and such, and I never thought anything of it. I'm like, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to be a teacher. Well, what I didn't realize was being a teacher meant dealing with all those kids that were disruptive. And I found that I didn't care much for that part of the job. So as you can obviously see, I still feel like I am a teacher, but I've just found a different avenue. And aren't we all teachers in a way?
We're supposed to be.
We are. We are both the student and the teacher.
That's what Jesus said.
Yes.
The problem is that there's, for the kids anyway, from what I can see, is that there's so much electronic activity that they have disassociated from terms of engagement. So you almost have to say to the kids, well, at my house anyway, the phone goes down, we play games, we talk, we go for walks,
Yes.
and they really get upset when I say, you got 10 minutes on that phone, and the timer goes off and they go down.
Yeah.
And they're like, but I'm right in the, I don't care what you're in the middle of. You can freeze it, you can time it. You're here to talk with me.
Right.
I want to hear your story. Talk to me. And they don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do that. They've lost their imaginary talents in many ways because they're so easily engaged in electronic talents. That you can't even get them to play an imaginary game. It's very difficult,
Yeah.
and that's the sad
with
part.
One of my favorite things as a child was to play pretend.
Yeah, even my grandkids too, when they were little. I mean, we played pretend all the time and make up stories and, stuff like that. And, but I noticed that even my younger grandkids now, who I'm not as engaged with, that TV doesn't go off, the cell phone doesn't go down,
Right.
and I'm like, enough.
Yeah.
Enough.
And you have to set boundaries. I remember I worked children's church here. There was a little Corey and Cameron. Corey was 4, and he brought his device in, and I just, set the boundary. Sweetie, and he turned it off, and we read your Bible story, whatever, and had our thing. But and it, and of course he didn't love it. I could tell by his body language. But it was okay though. You know what I mean? Sometimes, yeah,
They
yeah,
really
bless their
respected what
hearts,
you were-
yeah.
yeah.
And they were sweet, I miss them, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you
You know
don't
how you
learn
say
kindness from
kindness is-
electronics. You
And
don't,
kindness is free, like
Right.
I give cookies out to my neighbors that
Right.
are older, or,
Right.
you know, the Cub Scouts come around, say they want some canned goods or something, and leave it at the mailbox.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's always like little
Yeah.
things that you can do
There
that.
certainly is. And so we can be ambassadors of kindness. And people remember that. And that is spiritual nourishment, not only for ourselves, but for those we give to. And of course, to me, and to all of us, I'm sure, the two biggest things we can do to spiritually nourish ourselves is prayer and meditation. And I love the way that I've heard it said that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening. And when that listening isn't necessarily a voice. A lot of times it comes in a feeling. And the more I practice meditation, the more I love it. Because it just has gotten to the point where I can go into a meditative state sitting in the dentist chair. And there is no time that's not a good time.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if there's noise. It doesn't matter if there's light. You don't have to be sitting on a pillow in front of a candle. Did you?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm looking at your slide here and it says listening for God and prayer and meditation. Now, are we listening? There's two ways you can interpret the phrase listening for God. It's like, okay, I'm God's ears, or listening for God to say something.
Well, it's just, it doesn't, the word God doesn't even need to be in there. It's just
Well-
listening, and it's listening with your whole being.
Okay.
It's, you may hear words, and you may not.
I set an alarm in the morning for me and the grandkids at
Mhm.
like 8 a.m. See, we have to be at school, drop them off.
Right.
And then I've just continued it. And we try to find a word for the day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like be kind or joyfulness, you know,
Yeah,
like,
excellent. Roseanne?
Yeah, I was gonna mention, I have a prayer that I say every morning where I ask for God's direction. And sometimes I get it through my intuition,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I get it when somebody else crosses my path.
Or you might pick up a magazine or a book.
Exactly, it comes
Song.
to me in a
Song,
lot
all
of
the
different
times
ways.
I get it through songs
Songs
all
are
the
good,
time.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's not, it's the listening can come from numerous sources. We don't necessarily know where it's going to come
Or
from.
at that moment you're meditating, you may not hear it then, but then you're all of a sudden, this is funny, all of a sudden I was driving one time meditating and there was a license plate
Yeah.
in front of me that said, God, believe God, or something like that. It was long, and I'm like, believe God. Oh my, what are you screaming at me? It was so funny. I was in the car going, are you screaming at me now? Anyway. But yeah, I mean, those kind of things happen if you just become more aware.
yeah.
When you ask, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I want an answer, figure it out. You know, give me an answer somehow. Give me an answer.
Yeah.
And it just comes in another way.
Yes. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Linda?
Yeah.
Okay. And this, to me, this says it all. Just be still
And no.
and know. And that's just one of my
I can't read
favorite.
the last.
It's Psalm. It's a
psalm.
Psalm 46:10.
Oh, okay.
And I remember hearing years ago that, like, even if you don't feel like anything's happening during that quiet time, when I do it, my day is so much more peaceful, so much more positive. Everything's better.
Yeah.
And I may not feel absolutely anything, but it affects the whole rest of it.
Have you noticed that when you encounter something that might have maybe set you off in the past, that you're better equipped
Yeah.
to deal with it?
I don't talk to the quick check voice as much. I'm serious. The quick check voice, sometimes I'll go. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it out loud. I mean, I won't talk. It's not a real person, so that's how I rationalize it, right? but I don't cuss. I don't cuss. But every once in a while, I'll look to the quick check thing next to me. Luckily, they're very engaged and nobody's listening. But yeah, it's gotten better. I don't talk back to her as much. Like I'm going as fast as I can.
I don't get talked back.
But I love quick check. Look, it's my choice to go to quick check because I like it because it's quick and whatever. But so I'm making the choice. I can't complain. I'll show you.
I'm good with that.
I like that.
And this, love this quote from William Penn. True silence is the rest of the mind, and it is to spirit what sleep is to the body. Nourishment and refreshment. I found that quote and immediately thought of Charles Fillmore. Charles Fillmore, I think it was his granddaughter. I read somewhere that his granddaughters wrote about him, and she said he would often go into the silence, just throughout the day. And he lived with his granddaughter for a number of years. And her friends would come over, and they would see Charles Fillmore sitting in the living room with his eyes closed and his hands on his lap. And they asked her, what's he doing? She said, oh, he's just sitting in the silence. He does that all the time. And she was like, you mean your grandparents don't do that? Which so when I this, it is, that time in the silence, that time of meditation gives our spirit the same thing that going to bed at night and getting a good night's rest gives our body.
Do you feel that you could meditate too much or no?
Well, anything can be overdone.
Well, I mean, because like sometimes, like I meditate so much during one day. Like sometimes I just stop everything and just listen to the wind chimes or the birds or whatever. But I mean, can you meditate too much?
I kind of don't think so, but
I think meditation is grounding, so you have to ground at that time yet? Well, I think that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Even, it doesn't have to be like an hour.
Yeah.
Right,
It
exactly.
could be like a 4 minutes or
Right.
10 minutes kind of thing, and
Or
just grounding
half a
yourself
minute. Yeah.
back into balance again.
Yeah,
You can do it a lot.
like you're getting connected.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's becoming centered.
Right.
It's
I don't know
coming
if you
back.
can do it too much, but I know you can do it too little.
There you go.
You got that right, Linda.
We've
You got that
experienced.
right.
You know,
I don't know.
On the other
myself.
side of that, there have been yogis and stuff who have meditated for hours.
Oh, yeah.
Days, weeks,
Yes.
months,
Yeah.
years,
Yes.
But they got
days.
nothing else to do.
That's what that's their
Like
life.
taking care of their children or
Right.
cooking and
Right.
whatever, so you can do it, you know?
Right.
But you
No.
can't when you're,
Now, there is one other aspect too, because for people who've tried meditation, a specific system or whatever, and I know I've had this experience where I'm meditating and I'm having a really hard time. My mind is all over the place and I feel terrible. But what they have found is scientifically when they measure these things and what, the biofeedback, the brain waves or whatever, that even in times where I might be having a negative experience,
That's what you're
the
telling
effects
yourself
of
anyway.
that are very positive.
Right.
There's a benefit to that
Yeah.
meditation.
Yeah, there is no wrong way to
It helps.
meditate.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I did go to a thing on meditation back a while ago that was run by a cardiologist,
Mhm.
and she was trying to compare doing meditation compared to taking medicine.
Yeah.
And found that the patients who actually meditated did far better than the ones who had medicine.
Yeah, cool.
I know people sometimes get frustrated or judge themselves if their mind wanders during meditation, but what I learned a little bit ago is that it's the value of the meditation is not how long you're like completely unfocused or doing a mantra. It's the awareness when you go, when it's your awareness of, oh, I'm no longer in my meditation, I'm thinking about something, and then make the choice to come back. That's the value. That's the thing that allows us to be mindful. It's the awareness and the ability to change your mind, to shift.
And I like to, not give a lot of importance to those thoughts, but just have an awareness that, oh, that's something I might want to work on. So.
Yep. Yeah, look at it, it's all for our higher good. So contemplation is basically a form of meditation. It's just I like this saying, our worldly life grows from the roots of our inner life. So what we're planting inside of ourselves is what we're going to see grow in our lives. Carol, can you read that for us?
The true nature of contemplation is a mystery and an art. Our worldly life grows from the roots of our inner life. We learn to let go, release our reliance on our intellect, and thus open ourselves to new ways of learning, new ways of being.
And that took me a while to get that, to not rely completely on my intellect. Because I've always considered myself to be smart. Growing up, it's like my sister was the athletic one and I was the smart one. That was our classification in the family structure. And so I've always depended on my intellect. And when I started to learn that my intellect isn't always the best source, that's when things started to shift for me. Because when we depend too much on our minds, that kind of pushes aside our spirit, right? Listen. The earth has music for those who listen. I love that. I love that. And Linda Ridley. I have been listening to a lot of Stowe Good recently.
That their song, their Listen song,
Great
it's
music.
just beautiful, just beautiful.
The words and it's just,
And
yeah.
you know the one, they have a song and it starts out, "Oh Lord, what would you have me do today?" Right? So as I walk into my closet in the morning and I'm getting ready, I said, "Oh Lord, what would you have me wear today?"
There you go.
Whatever
That works.
And they laugh at me, but
It works. That
it's
works.
just in my brain. I
Yeah.
love their music.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
What is that?
Stowe Good,
Good.
S-T-O-W-E.
Stowe Daly.
Two
There's
two
two
women.
singers.
They're
Stowe
musicians.
Good?
Yeah,
It's
S-T-O-W-E.
good.
G-O-O-D.
Oh,
They're
okay.
two female singer-composers.
Yeah.
And
Nashville.
YouTube will pull them up. YouTube will
Yeah.
pull them up.
Yeah.
We're
It's-
gonna bring them here.
Okay.
That's, yes.
Yes.
That's a
I mean,
Mildred,
we should.
that's a Mildred thing.
Yeah.
Yep,
A
yep.
Mildred thing.
Let's start affirming that.
I actually started practicing, listening to music and trying to orchestra,
I listen to a lot of Christian radio because most of what's on the radio I don't want to listen to. So I listen to a lot of Christian radio and sometimes I find myself going, I don't even agree with that.
Yeah, fundamentalist.
You know?
Exactly.
And so I'm like, why isn't there a New Thought radio? Why isn't there one that plays?
Well, there was, I mean, the
think there
Fillmores had the radio
Right.
and TV station and all of that, and
Yeah.
they have empath music.
I just want to turn on my radio in the car and
Yeah.
get Stowe Good. And I don't know
Yeah.
any stations that have that. So spiritual prosperity allows us to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. And whether it's a rose or a snowflake. I mean, have you ever really looked closely at a snowflake? They are incredible.
So intricate.
Incredible. And they're all unique. Just
Or
like
even a
us.
spider web.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're
They're
like
cool.
amazing.
They are very cool.
Yeah.
Comes out of a
Not,
body.
not
you know?
real fond of their makers.
Or honeybees.
Oh,
I wrote
yeah.
about one that.
But how they can do a web overnight.
They went up my way to me.
And
Oh,
pretty
nice.
when the light shines on
Yeah.
it.
But whether it's a sunrise, sunset, rose, or a snowflake, you know, there is extraordinary in that ordinary. And a quiet walk in nature nurtures us in all aspects. Nurtures our body, nurtures our mind, and nurtures our spirit. When Mike and I were on our travels back in 2019, we went to Muir Woods. And I swear that was one of the most spiritual experiences I've ever had. Where is it? Beautiful. We're in California. Muir Woods. It's the redwoods.
Okay.
I've always wanted to go see it.
It's
We were there when we could drive through the big tree.
yeah.
Drive through, they don't let you do it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, but it does. So, and then with spiritual prosperity, even our ordinary relationships become extraordinary. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week is relationships and emotions and how we can be more prosperous in that area of our lives. And this is a poem from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who was, I don't know how long ago, a long time. 1800s? Let us then strive for an inward stillness and an inward healing. That perfect silence where the lips and heart are still and we no longer entertain our own imperfect thoughts and unproductive opinions. But divinity alone speaks in us, and we wait in singleness of heart that we may know divine will, and in the silence of our spirits that we may express only that divine will. Wow. I just thought that was beautiful. And it touches that spirit. And whenever we're doing anything, whether it's reading poetry or walking in nature, and it touches our spirit, that increases our spiritual prosperity. A spiritually prosperous life is a life that is attentive, receptive, and responsive to what divine presence is doing in us and around us. And that's what I try to emphasize every week. So next week we're going to be talking about emotional and relational prosperity. And Catherine Ponder is a great resource for all of these areas. And in her Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, she says this. And Carolyn, can you read that from where you are or no? Mike, can you?
No matter how many prosperity laws you know about, if you are not able to live and work harmoniously with others, all else seems of little value. It has been estimated that your success is due only to 15% of your technical ability and 85% of your ability to get along with people. Catherine Ponder, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity.
Yeah. And that's why we're going to spend an hour talking about that next week. And then the final week, well, and is that next week or is next week the image book?
The 12th is the image book.
The 12th.
That would be
Image
next
book is
week.
12.
So
Okay.
next Sunday will be
All right.
2 weeks.
And I'm so glad that Melanie is doing that for us because it is a perfect fit and the perfect time to be doing this. So these are some of the resources I used for this lesson, and that conclude. So let us close with a prayer. Divine Spirit, thank you for bringing us together today. Thank you for all of the input that has been received through this presentation and through each individual that came and shared their thoughts and their words with the rest of us, so that we may all learn and grow together. We are so grateful for becoming closer and closer with each other and with that connection that lives within us, as us, and through us, where we know that that 1 + 1 = 1 is the truth of our being. And with that knowledge, we will take this into the world and spread that love, spread that joy, spread that spiritual prosperity in all of its forms with everyone whose lives we touch. And we are thankful and grateful, and so it is. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all for being here, and we do appreciate you supporting this program and supporting Unity East Church. And there is a basket here if you would like to contribute. We would certainly appreciate that. And we'll see you next Sunday.